following interview, I sit down with Ally Maz. Ally is a new friend that I got to know deeply at a recent retreat that we both attended. And not only is she a beautiful soul, but her journey is an incredibly inspiring one. Ally started as a yoga teacher, and she's also an entrepreneur. She has run Girlvana for the last 13 years, which is a yoga retreat for teenage girls, which I think is so cool. And she's opened her own studio, also an author. She was a global ambassador for Lululemon and was an early employee at Open as well, which is one of my favorite meditation apps. I encourage everyone to check it out. And she's now embarking on her most ambitious project yet. And she's actually opening a boutique wellness hotel with her husband. So kudos to her. And I think, Ally is a living example of living your life and career with passion and purpose at the forefront, really from day one. But, of course, like every journey, it's not without its problems. And she shares her self-doubt, the fear that a lot of us have of everything suddenly collapsing and not sometimes even being able to enjoy things when they're going well in seasons of abundance because we feel like we have to remain hypervigilant. So really great conversation. But before we get there, a quick word from our partners. This episode is brought to you by Optimizing AI. They use artificial intelligence to reveal exactly how your audience and your users feel about your product demos, campaigns, tutorials, onboarding videos, or really any digital experience, tracking both vital signs and stress levels. You can actually join the waitlist now in the show notes. And of course, it is also brought to you by Dream Fuel, the AI mental performance coaching platform for leaders and teams. And Dream Fuel's elite coaches are going to help you achieve your goals, but do it in a way where you're also lowering stress levels, feeling more aligned, and tapping into your highest purpose. I've been coached by them, couldn't be a bigger fan. And each month they give away a handful of free one-to-one coaching sessions for listeners. So go to the show notes, claim yours now. Even one session makes a big difference. But so that's all. Now on to my interview with Ally. Hello, everyone from Kathmandu, Nepal. It's somewhat early morning for me, so you might see the sun come up and I'll get like a little bit brighter, which might be cool as we go. But I'm super, super excited for this episode. This is one where I just get to catch up with someone that I've been meaning to catch up with for a while anyway, and we'll hit record. So I am joined by Ally Maz. Ally, welcome.
Thank you, Scott. I'm so excited to be here. And likewise, I feel like we have a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. These are my favorite episodes when I literally just get to hang out with friends and kind of chop it up. And you have such an interesting backstory and aspirational background and done so many cool things. But that's not without its struggles and self-doubt. I always like to start with a real softball question. Who is Ally Maz?
Yeah, that's so easy. I'm in an astrology school right now, so I'm learning a lot about astrology, and this is actually helping me define this question because at the core, in the stars, I am a deeply sensitive, all feeling, probably addicted to transformation. So much of my story is just about evolution and how I can go deeper and deeper and deeper into understanding myself. I am a mover. I'm a natural born dancer, mover. I feel as though I'm emotionally quite intelligent. That's always felt like my language and where I feel the smartest. Don't ask me like how to solve a math equation, but like if you ask me how I feel like I'm great at articulating. So, and learning to really understand that my sensitivity is my superpower, and it's what makes me, yeah, great at my job. And I think the evolution for me is accepting that for myself too, and like letting myself be this all feeling being.
Hmm. Hmm. I love how you answered that question. I feel like it tells so much about a person, just how they answer that. Because a lot of people, even on this podcast, when you ask, who are you? They will lead with, well, I did this thing, and then I did this thing, and then I got this title, and I built this business, and so that's who I am, and I
I'm like,
love that you.
I cry a lot.
Yeah, I feel like that's an answer that's much more in tune with the core of like who we all are,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I can relate to something you said there. You said addicted to transformation. Um, I think put another way could be like addicted to self growth, personal growth. Um, and I resonate with that. And I think it's a really healthy thing. And I've had people close to me say that's something they really admire about me. And, but there is an element where that can go too far, I think. Particularly, maybe not so much for the addicted to transformation, as you put it, but like the addicted to growth. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
are you are you doing that to understand the self better, or are you doing that to try and enhance almost and get better at almost, for me it was almost like all costs.
Yeah.
How do you look at sort of threading that needle and not being so hard on yourself if you're not constantly getting better or
Yeah.
understanding yourself more?
Yeah. I think for me, because I started teaching yoga at 18, and my biggest fear was that I wasn't quote unquote spiritual enough to guide people through these experiences. So I think I was really like, I want to learn as much as I can. So I think that sort of came more from a place of like, I need to grow and evolve, like you're saying, in order to be the best I can at this career. And then
Mhm.
I've been in places in my life where maybe transformation wasn't top of mind, and then the universe does it for you, which I think we would call a wake up call for
Yeah.
this podcast. Is like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, you don't want to evolve. Well, you're going to have to, in the form of an illness, a breakup, a career change. So I've experienced it in that way as well. And then the third piece of it for me is I really feel like it's a part of my nature. I really know that I was put on this planet to like evolve rapidly. My husband always jokes like, you're always in a process. He's like, she's in a process, but I do really like to take life and like dissect it and understand my role in things, my responsibility, my accountability, so that I can teach and guide other people. You know, a lot of my work is with younger women. And I always say to them, like, I've just walked like just a few steps further on the path, and I can just kind of cut a little clearing for all of us to see ourselves and to heal ourselves. So I think it's kind of like checking in with the intention, but I do believe it is so deeply ingrained in me and my nature to constantly want to transform. But to my
Mhm.
detriment, and I think some people think it's inspiring, and some people probably are like, can you just chill? And I don't know if I can.
Yeah. So before we get into these sort of forced objects in our life that force us to transform, wake up calls, whatever you want to call them, one thing I find super interesting about your career, and really when I look back at other guests we've had, is unique. And why I think your story is unique, and you can tell me differently, is it feels like you found your dharma, your calling, um, pretty early on in life. Like you had the confidence, the knowing, um, to go, and like you've been a very successful, yoga teacher, running retreats. You now do, all of this like breath work. You were then, a global Lululemon ambassador, like a teacher at Open, like these really incredible things that feel super aligned with who you are. And a lot of people I talk to get there, but they have to try all these other things and almost like blow their life up before they're like, oh, thanks, universe. This is actually what I'm supposed to do. Is it strange finding your calling like that early? And do you think those statements are true to you, and do they resonate?
Yeah, I think, my whole life I thought I was going to be a professional dancer. And so I think I thought I found my calling when I was like 5. And so when I transitioned out of dance and moved home, I was living in LA and I signed with an agency and I was like auditioning for, it was 2005, I think, like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears, like that was sort of that era. And I stopped for many reasons, but one being health and eating disorder. And when I stopped dancing, I actually had some time and space to think about, like, I didn't miss it, and that really scared me because I was like, but I should miss it because this is the thing I've done my whole life. All my friends went to college. I didn't. I moved to LA. And so there was a grieving period of the sort of quote unquote first life purpose. And so I found yoga as a way to heal my body. And so there was a transition period as I shifted, but I guess it is a lot younger than most. And then when I found yoga, I would say within, I just turned 39. So within all of that time, there have been iterations of life purpose. It was like, oh, I'm a yoga teacher. And then it's like, okay, well, at 24, I'm going to start my first company and teach teenage girls yoga. So I'm going to get niche. Okay, now it's so in demand. Now I need a yoga studio. So now now all of a sudden I'm an entrepreneur, like by accident. Okay, well, now there's a book deal. And so there was like this snowball effect, but each kind of next phase asked me to kind of leave behind like an old identity. So it hasn't felt stagnant in these 20 years at all. So I guess optically it looks like all the same jobs sort of, but to me, it's all been completely different over like every couple of years, a new sort of iteration of what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm. And now we have a complete new one with this project that you're bringing together, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which is so cool. But I do want to quickly go back because it sounds like your health and this eating disorder when you're a dancer is, maybe one of the first big wake up calls
Yes.
in your life.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through that time period a little bit? And I know you've done so much incredible work on yourself, and just maybe where that came from, and um, there was just a ton of pressure you were putting on yourself. Or I think it's
Yeah.
really important to talk about those things.
Yeah. So eating disorders, I mean, everyone is different, but I've worked a lot with girls and eating disorders, for the last 2 decades. And what I know to be true is that it's about control. And in my late teens, early 20s, I felt like my life was very out of control. And as a dancer, especially when you're auditioning or you're competing, like it's out of your hands. Like dance is not soccer. Soccer is like someone kicks a ball into the net, from what I hear. I've never played soccer, but you score a goal. Dance is so subjective. Dance is like, it's artistry, it's your costume, it's your body, it's who knows your dance teacher. There's politics, there's dance moms, and so it's not really like a fair sport, let's call it. So I think there was so much unknown that the one thing I could control was how much food I did or did not eat. So that was kind of one part of it. The second piece of it, when I moved to LA more so, was more binge and purging because there was so much rejection in that business. Like you spend your whole life training and then you're like the perfect fit, but like you're 1 inch too short or your hair is not blonde enough for the job. And the rejection felt so intense that eating, binging was a way for me to numb what I was feeling. And then purging was a way for me to kind of reset or rebalance, the literal and figurative scale.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's doing it. So it's sort of like totally normal. We're all kind of feeding off of what each other is doing, and it's just so in the water in dance. And so what I look at it now, it was like, oh, I just didn't know how to deal with all of these feelings I have. And B, I didn't have any practices for when I felt out of control. So food just felt like that was the easiest one. And people have lots of vices, right? If you want to numb or run. But my chosen vice was food. Some people, sex, booze, drugs, but yeah, mine was food.
Mm-hmm. And I think most people listening to this will have been close to an eating disorder in one way or another, whether it's a partner or themselves, you know, children. I've come to learn, at least in the last decade, like how common it really is. It's just like you said, it's just another vice like all the other ones out there. What have you since learned when you feel out of control and, you know, you're kind of just unsure where to look? It's like hard to grasp onto stable things. What's your practice now for dealing with those emotions?
Yeah, I think this is where yoga and meditation came in for me, sort of at that perfect time, like right in that time where I was struggling the most. And I think that it was finding home in my own body because my body didn't feel like a safe place to be. Because my body, if it was injured, then I couldn't perform, or if it got sick, it let me down, or it wasn't thin enough. And so, from such a young age, the body was an enemy. And then yoga was teaching me the opposite. Like, this is your only vehicle for this lifetime. This is it. This is your one body. And it's a temple. And how are you going to choose to take care of it? Because no one's like coming to save you. And so there was a maturation period within the yoga practice and starting to walk the spiritual path, which was like, oh my God, I have been so cruel to my body for so many years. What could it look like to mend this relationship? And this is years, like this isn't just 1, 2 yoga classes, this is a long time. And so much of yoga practice for me is like sitting in meditation, sitting with discomfort. Oh, this doesn't feel good. Oh, I don't like how it feels. Can I stay with it? Can I meet it? Can I breathe with it? And then can I ultimately alchemize it? Through the practice of movement and meditation. But it took a long time to get there. But those early years was really about, first of all, understanding that the enemy was me, that I was the cruelest person in the room to myself, identifying that voice, forgiving myself, finding compassion, and then trying to find a new voice, trying to find a new way to actually relate to myself, which
Mm-hmm.
still, comes back for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That deeply resonates. I've many periods of my life had a pretty shitty voice to myself, which goes hand in hand with performance sometimes because it's
Yeah.
kind of like having that really strict asshole, rugby coach or basketball coach. Sometimes they win championships, but at what cost?
Exactly.
And I think something I've grown just so immensely, like kind of my one piece of advice now, if I can only give people one piece of advice, is get inside your body. When I look at the times when I was really just going through it and felt so disconnected. I was just living in my brain. And I feel like to get to the soul, or the like your higher self, you can access that through your body.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I look at it almost as like you're in your brain, you can get in your body. And then if you're lucky, you can kind of get in your soul. And at least the body thing is something we can control.
Yeah.
If I'm a listener, um, and I'm listening right now, and I've maybe got a bit of a yoga practice, or it's on the to-do list, and I've heard now people talk about this breathwork thing, and but I'm like, listen, I'm an executive at this tech company, or I'm an entrepreneur, I'm doing this, and this all sounds great, but I just don't have time, and maybe I'm a new mom, or I'm a new dad, and that all sounds great, but I can't just do yoga all the time. I know you've worked with so many people. What's your advice to people that you just don't think they have the time?
Yeah. Yeah. I hear this one all the time. I mean, I think we do have the time, and I think we spend it in ways that aren't serving us. I think it's a little different maybe if you're like C-suite exec. Okay, I get it. New mom, for sure, understand that. I think, moving your body in any way, somehow, even just a little bit, you don't have to get to a 90-minute yoga class, but going for a walk. It took me a long time, actually, like years, to actually start dancing again because it was so painful. But now I'm like, even just putting a song on and moving your body, like I think everyone has 2 minutes to just, and it doesn't have to be good, and it could be really wacky and weird and bad, but just like to exactly what you're saying, just to have the dissension down into the body. Like we're all, I call it, just upstairs in the attic. And so I think that it doesn't have to be yoga, like, but just find some type of movement practice to feel your body is so key, because I think we have a society of people living upstairs in their minds, and then there's zero connection to the body, and then they try to be in relationship to other people who are only in their minds, and there's no intimacy, there's no real, like what my teacher calls belly to belly, being with people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's apps for that too. There's lots of 20-minute yoga classes on the internet. I have many of those on YouTube. But yeah, I think for me, what started to stick with yoga was actually finding a teacher that I loved, and actually feeling like this person is speaking my language. There's so many yoga teachers out there. Not all of them are going to resonate, but I think once you find a teacher that you like, I think that's a game changer for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Totally. That's something that's not talked about too often. Is this? I think it's getting talked about now in terms of therapy. I've had tons of friends who try a therapist or two, and they're like, "Oh, therapy's not for me." It's like, no, it's like saying dating's not for me because you went on two shitty dates. It's like it's probably a user error on
Yes,
the person, not necessarily the act. And I think yoga is the same. I've done tons of different
totally.
yoga classes, and can be a teacher, can be a studio, can be the environment that
Oh my
just
God. The
doesn't
music, the
doesn't
way
vibe.
that
Hmm.
person is instructing, is it fast? Is it slow? There's so much. I mean, I hated the first few yoga classes I went to. It didn't resonate until I found a few teachers, and then it changed my whole life. So yeah, I think I do, this is bias, but I do really believe that yoga is for everyone if you so choose, but it's not every teacher is for everyone.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm a plus one for that. If the whole world did yoga, man, yeah, much better
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I want to, paint the picture a little bit of where you're at, today. And because when you talk about finding time for your own practice, um, it's not just, theory talking about other people. You have a tremendous amount going on right now. I believe you just had a retreat. You're about to have another retreat. You are opening a beautiful, wellness hotel retreat in Mexico. You're fundraising. You're doing all of these things, and it's a monster project. Um, and you know one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about, because I think it's on a lot of people's minds right now, is this idea of like context switching. I think, we're at a time where a lot of people have their full-time job, and then maybe fear around AI, or everything's just moving so rapidly that most people have like a side hustle or a side hustle or two. And maybe they're trying to write a book like you did, and they've got these different things going on, and they somewhat flow together, but maybe not as much as we would need. And from my experience, that can be incredibly exhausting.
Yeah.
I remember, back in the day, having the full-time executive role at Outreach, and then starting the fund, and then I had kind of my social media, LinkedIn sort of persona, and constantly like context switching, and it can be extremely exhausting. Have you found any tips or tricks or practices when you have to, maybe teach and facilitate a breath work course, and then within the next hour you have to jump on and like talk to an investor about this hotel and everything? Like, how has that experience been for you? Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was really hard because I felt like I'm really comfortable in the facilitator role. Fundraising was new for me. I didn't fundraise with my first two businesses. Asking for a lot more money, it's just a different ball game. And I think I shared this with you when I first met you, like how emotional fundraising felt like for me, because everything I do in my life is so heart centered and so like earnestly true and vulnerable. So that's how I approach everything in my life. And then I'd come into these business meetings and have to sort of button up a little. And, being a woman in business also feels a little different. So I felt like, I have to prove myself. And does this yoga girl know all the numbers? And so it just sort of felt like I was putting on a mask. And then I'd get off these calls. I shared this with you, and I'd just get emotional. Even if they went good or bad, it didn't matter. It just sort of felt like I was upset because I had to just pretend somehow. And I think what's shifted for me, what I've learned, is that all that's required in any of these roles is just my uninterrupted presence. And if I'm just completely in the moment, that I can respond to whatever the moment needs from me. So in a breathwork training, someone is having what looks like a literal exorcism that I'm facilitating, and they're moving out decades worth of, let's call it sexual trauma, and sobbing, crying, screaming, and then the next day I'm like, well, Tim, let me tell you about like blah blah blah. It did feel like such a dichotomy, but when I look at the bigger picture, it's the only reason I'm doing the hotel is so that same experience of the breathwork exorcism can now happen on my land and not someone else's. And so they do feel really connected. And if I can stay as present as possible, I can respond in the moment. I think that's the simplest way I can put it, but it was not easy for me in the beginning. And I think it's when I do too much of the fundraising, too much in the business, that my heart really yearns to be back with people facilitating transformation versus in a spreadsheet. I know that about myself.
Yeah, I think that was really, really well said. And that been doing a lot of my own reflecting after this last fundraise that led to burnout. And one thing I'll share, because I think we're similar in, I'm a very empathetic person. I think that's actually what made me really good at fundraising and selling. I would also just like lead with my heart, but also be like really attuned to how this other person is feeling and what they're thinking about. And that is really, and you have this same skill, and that's really, really exhausting. And I would be like, what? I actually only had like 5 meetings today. Sometimes it would be 12, but 5. Why am I so exhausted? And it's because I didn't learn a way where I didn't give everything.
Yeah.
And I think I'm still trying to figure out what the advice is there, because like you do want to be hyper present in your life. You want to show up authentically, but there is these certain activities, and when you're talking with strangers, like I didn't want these people to like me. I wanted them to love me. And
Yeah.
like maybe that's too high of a bar. And so if we left that meeting and I didn't get that immediate like excited email, or they didn't respond in like next couple of days, it was like a personal
Yeah.
affront. It was like a personal
Yeah.
attack, and
Yeah.
carrying that around is really heavy. And you know, I would actually, when I look at why, you know, I would take an Adderall in the morning sometimes when I was staring down the barrel at 8 meetings. Sure, there's an energetic sort of kick, but what it actually did was it severed that connection for me. Like you take that and you're like, you're on and you're maybe charismatic, but like it's kind of the me show. I'm doing my thing and I'm not
Yeah.
feeling your energy as much.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't carry as much of it.
Yeah.
And obviously that sort of spiraled. So it is interesting where this, you know, I talk a lot about, and everyone is like, you know, bring your authentic self everywhere. But there is a time and a place where you can be a little bit more reserved, and you don't have
Yeah.
to give all of the
Yeah.
energy,
Yeah,
which
that
is
really,
tough.
it's tough. It's so tough for me. My husband, who is my business partner in this, is much better at it, I think, where he can kind of really sort of stay. We talk about this when I teach teachers. It's interesting. I've never like kind of made this connection, but a lot of the times when teachers teach, they're so like leaned in almost too much. It's like, okay, like get back in your body, like get into the center of your body versus being energetically forward in your body or too far back in your body. It's like be right in the central channel, like sit in the central channel of the body. And that helps for me when I'm teaching to stay in myself and not kind of energetically hop over into what experience this breather, if it's breath work, is doing, because they have really large experiences. And a lot of the times, if you are really empathetic, it takes you out because they are crying, sobbing, screaming. So to stay in your body while that's occurring is big work. And so I need to I need to do that in these fundraising conversations too. I haven't connected those dots, so thank you. But yeah, just like staying in yourself and watching just this need to it's like our biggest dream. So it is emotional. So it's a little harder to
Mm-hmm.
separate. But B, the people pleaser in me always wants to win everyone over. And I'm really cognizant of
Mm-hmm.
that. It's like, it's okay if they don't like you. And if they don't, you don't want them involved anyway. So like, it's fine. And just like kind of closing that door and cutting off that energy. But it's tough. It's really tough for me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That people pleasing side is interesting, and I think I've shared on this before. Like, you told me even like a year and a half ago that I would say I'm a people pleaser, and I like hated that word. Like, no, 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 no. That's not me, and it's so obvious that I definitely a people pleaser to a T. Not even a people pleaser. Like I need love. Like you're not just gonna like me. Like you're gonna love me,
Yeah.
and it's uh, it's interesting because you can waste a lot of cycles too of just trying to win people over. When you said like, okay, play that tape out. Let's say we do win this investor over that was like we weren't kind of jiving, we weren't connecting. Like, well, then you just have someone that you don't connect with on your cap table. Like, good, great
Yeah.
job. You know, you won them over, but like, what did you actually accomplish?
Yeah.
So one of the things I think a lot about, and we've had some conversations, and just for the audience, we there's some funny threads here. So Ellie and I got to spend a beautiful week together at a retreat on Bowen Island, a 5-MeO DMT retreat. I've done some writing about it in my newsletter if you want to check it out. But what we do found is we actually went to the same elementary school, which is so crazy. So we connected pretty quickly. But one of the things we sort of talked about, and I think a lot about, is how the interplay between walking the spiritual path, which you have for a long time, and capitalism, making money, making maybe lots of money, is okay. But there is this big push and pull, I feel like, in the community that once you start sort of living in purpose and finding your calling and all these things, that like money's supposed to just magically come as a byproduct. Do what you love and the money will come. It's like, that's kind of bullshit. You still need to figure out both of these games. Um, how has that been for you? Because you've been walking the path for a long time, but still able to work with these great, brands and have a very impressive sort of entrepreneurial and corporate career.
Oh, yeah, there's so much wrapped up in that. Well, first of all, I did grow up with a father that said, do what you love and the money will come. And
Mm-hmm.
he believed that at his core, and that was true for him. Wildly enough, might be, one of the rare ones. So that was sort of in my DNA, and I always knew that I was going to do what I loved, obviously. And I think that when I started teaching yoga, like it is sort of this starving artist career, especially in that time, like in those times in the 2000s, 2010s, like there wasn't brand deals for, there was no yoga influencers really. And I was, lucky and talented enough to, be a part of Lululemon, but as it was growing. And so to be a global ambassador for Lululemon, like we didn't really know what that was yet. So I really feel like I was right place, right time for a lot of these interesting brand situations. And I was still young enough where like making a little bit of money felt like a lot of money. And I don't really think I started making good money until probably like 6-ish years ago, where it was like, okay, this is like real deal stuff. I'm making enough more money or same amount of money as my friends that have like fancy corporate jobs. And I guess here's the difference. When I worked for different brands, the work was not as fulfilling. I felt like I had to play a role. I had to be like Ally Maz, the yoga girl. I had to be up to brand standards. So I really felt like I was serving capitalism. I was perpetuating white girl, yoga pants girl, like in a big way, versus making that same amount of money in my own retreats, my own trainings, where none of it was fancy. All the bells and whistles were gone. And I know what it takes for like a yoga teacher to come to a breathwork training and that hard earned like $2,500 or whatever they're paying. When that money goes into my bank account, it's so cherished and honored in a different way. And I've had both experiences, and I feel so lucky to have both experiences. I do believe that people that have spiritual gifts and have high integrity and like operate with a strong code of ethics deserve to be paid for it. I do see a lot of fuckery in the wellness industry, and I don't know if we want to go down that road, but I have seen people cosplay spirituality and make a lot of money from it. And it's snake oil salesman grifting 101. So over these 20 years, I don't know, it's sort of a long way of answering this question. I just think that like there's integrity and there is ethics when you are walking a spiritual path. And you have to be careful because the pedestal will grow underneath you, whether you like it or not, because people are having a changed experience and they think it's you that's doing it. And the best teachers will say, it's not me, it's you that is making this change. I am merely but a facilitator. I'm not making the change. You are doing it. And I think if you're not checking your ego, you can get lost in that. For sure, and feed the capitalistic more. This is how cults get started,
Yeah.
And you and I joked like Scott and I would be fully following the Bhagwan. We would be in
Oh,
wild country.
100%.
We were born in the wrong era. Super susceptible to spiritual cults, Scott and I. But
Yeah. You're starting to
but
call, let us know. We're
yeah.
probably in.
Yeah, we're cult leaders, we're in the cult. But yeah, I just think it's like it's a tricky, like, spiritualism and capitalism in the Western world, they're very enmeshed. There is a way to make money at this job, and I like to be a proponent of that and a champion for that when done ethically. And I have 20 years in this job to prove it. Like, and thank God Instagram wasn't around when I was 19, because I'd probably be on there like touting some stuff I don't understand, getting cute little brand deals. But now I feel like I can put the money where my mouth is. Is that the expression? Where I really feel like, I'm worthy and deserving of the money that I make, and I make real impact and a real difference. And I haven't really done a brand deal or anything in a couple of years because I'm just so focused on the work itself that I don't need to be in Japan in front of 500 people anymore. Like, I want to be in front of 12 people that really want to go deep. So it's like I've gone deeper versus wider, I think, in the last few years.
Love that. Yeah, there's the quote. I think it's Charlie Munger. I don't know. All these quotes are given to 10 different people, but it's basically you get paid in proportion to the problems that you solve. And I've used that, a lot of my career, and I'd be like, okay, what's a hard problem that no one knows how to solve? And then you get paid for that. And like, what is a harder problem than, getting people into their body or getting people more happy or more fulfilled? So like that should come with a reward. That's how we've set up society. And I hear you. I think why there's so much friction there between capitalism and spirituality is because of the bad actors. A lot of our or people that you can see that did really well in this space that made a lot of money, bad things ended up, happening because they didn't keep that ego in check. And you also said something interesting that made me think was the sacredness of money changes when you're living out kind of your calling and you're really helping people. I haven't even thought of that, but like the money I was making in, tech, that was fast and loose money, that was, we live the fast, we're getting it from the fast life. So we live the fast life. And, now with just some of the partners on, even this podcast and, some of the consulting and advising, I'm doing more in this space. You treat it differently with a lot more intention, which is a really good thing.
Yeah. I mean, when I worked for a tech startup mindfulness company, it was during the pandemic, and it was fancy. Like, I got a big relocation package from New York to LA, and equity and a big salary, and healthcare, living in the States. Like, it just sort of felt like this a really safe thing. And I worked really hard, and I really helped build that app, that company Open, which I love, and I feel very grateful for that experience. And I knew that there was a piece of my heart that wasn't being expressed in the work that I really wanted to do. And so that money to me just sort of felt like, it was tech money. It was like, trickled all the way down into my bank account. And I was like, well, I don't have any time or energy. I'm just going to spend it. Because it doesn't feel the same versus, what I do now. Like, when that retreat deposit comes in, it's like, it just feels so different in my bank account and the way I want to spend it. And now, because my husband quit his job and we moved to Mexico and I'm sort of breadwinning in this moment, that money is even more sacred because it's going towards us building this new dream. And so the relationship to money is a spiritual relationship, and no part of money exchange feels frivolous to me at all, not even kind of. How I spend it, how I earn it, becomes like a spiritual practice, and it's rigorous and confronting and beautiful, and I treat it just like any other sort of element, I guess, of my life. And I love that I had that sort of one tech corporate experience that not a lot of yoga teachers get to have, because I felt the freedom and I also felt the golden handcuff thing that everyone talks about. I was like, oh, this
Hmm.
is it. If I stay, keep hitting it, I get more money. I don't like it, but I keep getting more money. And this is how people get trapped. I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Got it. So that was like my little master class in golden
Yeah.
handcuffs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool that you got to kind of experience both. Many folks, yeah, just experience one, either they're a lifelong entrepreneur or they just, stay in
Yeah.
corporate. Yeah. As you were talking, it's almost like when you're, um, giving so much energy in your gift, yoga, breathwork training, you like know how much of that your true energy is poured into creating this. And then when you're given money through that, you almost treat it as that energy. You
Yeah.
know how much your energy is worth.
Yes.
So it's a totally different uh, that's a really I feel like I got to write about that. That's really interesting. Of how,
That's it.
just yeah, the
And
difference between,
you get to decide that too. Like as an
yeah,
entrepreneur, like at Open, like they said, this is how much we pay you for the work you do. And I was like, okay, why do you get to decide that? Like someone who's never had a real job before, I was like, I don't agree. Versus, okay, like the work back. I know how much energy it takes to put out for, say, a breathwork teacher training. It's 6 days. It is rigorous. There's a
mhm,
certain number we want to hit in order for that energy exchange to really feel like we can hold that, because it's not those 6 days. It is
yeah,
the 20 years of teaching experience. It is the syllabus that we built, all those hours. It's how I take care of myself every single day, how I take care of myself after these experiences. And, it's not, I was always fighting at Open about this, like for teachers, it's not about the 1 hour we taught. You can't
mhm,
quantify it. It's so much deeper than that. And I think, yeah, so that's what I look at now in terms of planning, is like, what type of energy exchange am I looking getting back from this?
mhm, yeah. I feel like it probably works the other way too. And I've had experiences where if you think the subconsciously, if you think the energy exchange is actually unfair, even in your favor, right? Like maybe you're
Yeah,
doing a job where you're like, I kind of just like check things off in Asana and I send like, 18 emails and answer my Slack. And then, you're getting paid X amount for being a VP director, or whatever. I think that's when you almost like repel the capital you're getting from it and spend it in,
totally.
we'll call it unique ways. um,
Sure.
um, but anyway, so what was I? Ah, yes. Okay. Um, so we talked about at the retreat, and this is something really interesting, and it's something um, I've been really guilty of. And we talk about wake up calls, and we talk about these like big moments of struggle, and things are hard, and you're forced to reinvent yourself. But there's also these times and these seasons of sort of abundance where things are seemingly, at least on the outside, going your way. You're getting some bounces, and for certain people, myself included, the most unhappy I ever was the fund could not have been going better. I couldn't have picked a single thing and be like, I wish this was going better. So getting all of these accolades, all of my friends and family are pouring them on. And it made me feel so weird because I felt fucking horrible inside. And I was just like waiting for it to fall apart,
Yeah.
just over analyzing everything. My anxiety was through the roof. I wasn't sleeping. And, you know, it can be really hard to enjoy those seasons, and you've embarked on this incredible journey, and things are going, well for you. Um, but I know you have this tension and a little bit of this fear. You want to
Yeah.
talk us through that a little bit and your experience with that?
Yeah, I think that really sort of revealed itself in our time together on this retreat. I think I maybe said it out loud for the first time, and it was like, do I deserve this? And I was like,
Mm.
whoa, okay, that's so interesting. I've never said that out loud. And watching, every time we tell people what we're doing, everyone says like, that's my dream. It's so interesting. Like just specifically with
Right.
like living in Mexico, opening a boutique hotel, everyone's like, I want to do that. Like from the richest person we've ever talked to like, like a 15-year-old, like everyone is like, that's my dream. I'm like, okay, why me? And so there was sort of this feeling of taking on this huge risk, feeling like I have achieved so much in my life that do I get to have one more? It's like you already got the book deal, you already did the thing. Like it's kind of, and especially for women, it's kind of like, okay, and I don't have a baby. Generally at this age, it's like, okay, and then have a baby and like exit stage right. Let the men go back to work. And for me, it's like, am I being too ambitious? These are like the types of questions that started to show up. So that's one piece of it. The second piece was like, okay, I don't have that much money. Like what we're raising is more millions than I felt comfortable with. And so there was a lot of spiritual energetic work I had to do to be an energetic match for the money that we want to come in. Because if I don't feel like I deserve it, money is energy. It's not going to come find me and say, no, no, really, you do deserve millions of dollars for your dream.
Yeah.
I had to work that one from the inside out, and we get a lot of
Hmm.
fundraising advice that's very practical. But the sort of spiritual fundraising advice is like, if you don't feel like you can hold that amount of money, I don't think that amount of money is coming, or it's coming to like
Hmm.
give you a wake up call. But I don't think
Hmm.
it's just going to appear. And so I had to do a lot of work on feeling like I was worthy and deserving enough for that money. And again, the ethical conversation, the integrity conversation is like, I know when that money comes in, I'm going to do really beautiful things with that money. And so
Hmm.
I needed to kind of shut down some of the external noise of, oh, that's so much money, or, oh, I'm over here working my shitty job while you're in Mexico swimming in the ocean, or whatever. I just kind of had to shut some of that out and like get really real about this is another step in my life purpose. It wouldn't be here if you didn't want it or desire it or have it be a part of your next step, and just accepting it and accepting that it's here now because you're ready for it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was uncomfortable. Like especially when you and I met in the summer, I was like really in that discomfort.
Hmm. Yeah, kind of the theme of the last half of this kind of conversation is just that idea that money is energy. And, when you are fundraising or asking the universe for these really big goals, you have to be that person that is worthy of that. It's an energy transfer. And basically what you're saying to the universe and even to this investor is, you have a dream, everyone's got dreams. And right now, the better use of resources and capital is this dream that we're talking about, which is a big ask to ask someone. Um,
Yeah.
but then the cool part of that is realizing, oh, my dreams have value.
Yeah.
Not everyone can dream up this incredible dream that you have. And I've seen the mock-ups, I've seen the deck. Like it's a hell of a dream, and people are willing to invest in you because you are able to dream up something like that, which is
Yeah.
really, really cool.
Yeah. And it's not a coincidence. And I think that because we've been authentic all the way through, and it's sort of the only way we know how to be, it just is like the proof is in the pudding. It's like, I feel like, when the money has come in, like the first million we raised, it was like, okay, that was actually kind of simple, that first round, because people really believe in us because they can feel the authenticity. And so that helped me a lot with my imposter syndrome of like, what if I don't, seems businessy or I'm too spiritual or all of these kind of things that I was creating. And it's like, no, people can feel that this is real and that we have the skill set to bring this through. And so the money then is like the affirmation, but they kind of dance together, versus if we were like bunch of bullshitters, we'd probably have a bunch of bullshitter investors too, because you're just energetically matching each other. So I do really feel like whoever's come forward has been super high integrity, believes in the dream and gets it. And that's what we set out to do. It wasn't, oh, we want to raise X amount of money. It was, we want to raise X amount of money from, and then we got really clear on what that archetype looks like. And we've said no too, because, we don't want to take money from people that don't fully see us. And that's our decision. Not everyone's doing that, but the intention of how you build something is how, to me, the inception of it is so important, and we want to really get that part right.
Yeah, totally. Not all money is created equal. That's for sure.
No.
It comes with that energy, and especially investors like well, I mean, in tech, we say you're getting in bed with this person for 10 years. When you build a physical hotel, you're getting in bed with them for 40 years or 50 years, however long this,
Yeah.
structure is going to be there. Well, Ali, this conversation has been really, really enjoyable. I could probably go on and on with you, but I have one final question because, first I want to congratulate you on this next part of your journey. You've done so many incredible things, and, from the little I do know you and just watching you from the outside in your background, this feels like your thing. It's that big, hairy, audacious goal that it's like, can I ask the universe for this? And like, you're doing it. And, I think we all have that goal. It can look very different for a lot of us. It's funny that you mentioned a lot of people do look at like opening a wellness hotel in Mexico as like their thing, but we all have our thing. And, maybe we look around at our life and we're like, this doesn't look anything like that big goal I have. And, if you could give some advice for those people that are maybe building a life out of fear, out of safety, out of just stability, it's just what they've known. And they're trying to muster up that courage to go after that thing that just feels really aligned, that feels like they're with purpose. What would you say to those folks?
I think part of my answer is in your question is like the intention of how are you building a life? Is it a life based off of fear and the desire for security only versus a life of authenticity and purpose? And those two things feel very different. And I have a lot of contrast in my life because I have a lot of people in my life that have sort of chosen, like, this is the safest thing for me. You can go live your dreams. That looks really scary and uncomfortable. I'm going to stay over here and choose comfort. And one is not better than the other, but I think that there does come a time, certainly have felt this many times in my life, where it's like, the dream gets so loud inside of me, it's like I can't ignore it anymore. And if I were to continue to ignore it, it would swallow me whole and start to destroy me and eat me alive. So that's kind of how I know it's time to make a leap, is like, I can't handle the discontentment any longer. And the quote unquote safety and comfort is actually killing me. And so I have to make a choice. And there is a leap. And I think this is, where people are like, but I don't know what's going to happen. How do I pay my bills? You're not going to know. At least that's been my experience. You're not going to know. And that's the fun part, and that's the terrifying part. And it's so cliche, and it's cliche for a reason. It's just you won't know until you know.
Mhm.
And all of the like leap and the net will appear and all of that stuff. I have found that to be true. I do believe that the universe is conspiring in our favor. I do believe when you get aligned with your heart's mission that that universe, God of your own understanding, however you choose to call it, does start to set you up in a way for you to find that path, and that looks different for everyone. So there is no 10-step process to living your dreams, but I do think the ones that are brave enough are rewarded. But I like to make no mistakes that this is not easy or comfortable ever for the most part.
Mhm.
And I find that when I start to hit a plateau and it gets comfortable, then I go seeking the next big thing. And anyways. But I think that if you're aligned with purpose and impact, that's really the sweet spot in life. And I think that is what I attribute my success to, is that I have been so wholeheartedly, earnestly wanting to make a difference in the world. And that's met with high integrity and showing up. And I think if you have those attributes, then you'll be just fine.
Mhm. Great advice. I love that. Remind me of the Terrence McKenna quote: "Hurl yourself into the abyss and learn that it's a feather bed." Is
Yeah.
one of my
Yeah.
favorite ones, and um, yeah, I think it's one of those things, and it kind of goes full circle. Something you said earlier of when you have that discontentment, that agitation, that feeling that I should do this, I know this is the path. That is oftentimes when the world will push you to do something anyway. And it might not be on that path that you want to go. You can intentionally choose, or many times the world will do it for you. And,
Yeah.
to try and give an example that like everyone can kind of be like, oh, that happens is anytime a friend, comes to me and they're like, my job feels like weird right now. Like something's up, and I'm not really jiving with the leadership, and it's like, well, it's definitely time to make a move then, because you're very likely gonna get laid off in the next 3 months, or
Mm,
something's gonna happen. And that's just a really like concrete way you can see this show up. Like your body knows, you feel it energetically. And if you don't make the move, and then if you make the move to proactively start searching for new roles, you maybe set it up in a way where it's more in your favor, and you can choose the next path versus,
yeah.
something happening, getting fired, and then you're now stuck and you have to go look for safety, or things
Totally.
in an unintentional way. And I think
Totally.
that applies to everything that we do in life. Your body really knows.
Yeah, the body is the barometer. I always have said that. Body's the barometer for truth. It knows and it will tell you. And we're so good at ignoring. And it kind of goes full circle to the conversation we had in the beginning is like, you know, when those feelings show up, we have so many ways, and society has conveniently given us so many ways to shop, eat, drink, numb, to not have to feel those things because capitalism operates with this reward system, this dangling carrot. And when you kind of step out of that, you realize, okay, there actually is another way to live. And it is scary making that leap, but I mean, I've helped so many people do that, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, you were right. It's not so bad over here. It just is scary.
Mhm.
But it's also scary showing up to a job you hate every day. It's also scary, staying in the relationship that's not working. It's also scary numbing and running because you cannot outrun yourself everywhere you go. There you are. So, yeah, how do you want to use this one precious life? I don't know.
Mhm.
I've just chosen to do it this way. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I'm in too deep now. There's no going back.
I think you're doing a damn good job. Ally, thank you so much. If people want to follow along and watch you bring your your dream to life. Instagram main channel for you, your
Yeah, just
X,
at
LinkedIn. What's your?
at Ally Maz is my Instagram, and we haven't we're kind of sitting on this landing page with our hotel. We're not quite ready to show the world yet, but that's all coming. But yeah, at Ally Maz is the best way to find me, and everything is kind of will be revealed through there soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Scott.
And I'll put your book in the show notes as well
Oh,
if anyone wants
please.
to check
Yeah.
that out. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Cool. Well, thank you again, and to all our listeners, appreciate you rocking with us. We'll see you all next week.